welcome to FusionPit Presents. I'm Alec, and tonight I will be talking about the latest offering from infamous death metal band Decayed Existence. Now, if you ask any old school metal fan, they'll probably tell you that they prefer their death metal and black metal a little lo-fi, maybe a little rawer than what we're hearing nowadays. And that's not inherently bad, because that's where our roots, our foundation really lies in, with bands such as Possessed, Obituary, Autopsy, working with this lo-fi, raw quality production. However, there can be a downside to this style of production, especially because most of the time the instruments seem really claustrophobic, and it's easily for anything beneath the surface of this song to get buried, especially if there's an instrument or multiple instruments overpowering everything else that's going on. But on the other end of the spectrum, we have bands nowadays coming out with material that's so sanitized, it's so overly compressed, overly produced, that it ends up sounding almost robotically flawless. And the issue with this genre is meant to showcase energy, aggression, and brutality. And those traits are inherently humanistic and animalistic characteristics. So when you have a mechanized album that sounds like a soulless machine is performing, it strips away all of these traits and you get almost a lifeless performance. Now, with this 2015 release, The Blessed Graves manages to land in between both of these production styles. It's not overly raw, but it's not overly produced either. This album is crisp and clear enough for us to get a better sense of the abysmal chord progressions and the winding, sinister guitar passages that find themselves on some of the more melodic moments of this album, whereas the drums remain punchy and powerful enough to drive their point home without overpowering any of the instrumentals. And all in all, we get a better picture of this hellish abyss that these songs seem to come flying out of, without it losing its organic brutality, without it losing and stripping away the three characteristics that I've mentioned before: the energy, the aggression, and I've said the brutality. Another thing I really like about this album and the band in general is how versatile they can be. Not only are they offering us these dizzying rhythms, these thick, chugging, mosh-friendly guitars, and these head-banging riffs, along with the monstrous vocals, but they're giving us some melodic moments that are actually quite nice, like the acoustic interlude right in the middle of the song Paths to Conquest. Or my favorite song, one of my favorite songs is Genocide to Industry. It features this back and forth between the drums and the bass, and especially toward the back end of the song, it's not a melodic moment, but there's these sharp arpeggios featured in the solo. Another song I would like to highlight is The End of All Things. It features this dark keyboard chord progression, and it sounds like it could be from, you know, an old school horror film. It's very dark, it's eerie, and it's almost got this really morbid atmosphere to it. The only issue I have with this album is that there is one song, The New Disease. It seems to be a little more lo-fi than every other song on this album, and it makes it stand out in a really weird way. But all in all, this is a great album, and I would suggest you look it up if you get the chance, or come into FusionPit and buy it. My favorite songs off of this album have to be The End of All Things, Genocide Industries, Sick, and The Blessed Graves. Alright, this has been FusionPit Presents. I'm Alec. You guys are awesome. Stay metal.